You know, there's something nobody talks about in spiritual circles, something uncomfortable, something that makes people who've awakened feel like they're somehow doing it wrong. They've had the profound realizations, they've done the inner work, they've faced their shadow and found their truth. And then they look at their bank account and think, why am I broke? If you're spiritually awakened and struggling financially right now, I need you to understand something. You're not broken, you're not unspiritual. You haven't failed at manifestation or forgotten how to attract abundance. What's happening to you is not a punishment, it's a pattern that Carl Jung understood deeply, and one that, once you see it clearly, changes everything. Here's what's really going on. The same awakening that freed you from unconscious patterns in every other area of your life has disrupted the unconscious patterns that were driving your relationship with money. And now you're caught in this strange space where you can't go back to chasing money the old way, but you haven't yet discovered the new way forward. The job that paid well suddenly feels unbearable. The career path that once excited you now feels meaningless. The hustle that used to motivate you now feels hollow, and everyone around you is asking, what happened to you? Why did you leave that great job? Why aren't you ambitious anymore? Why are you throwing your life away? But you're not throwing anything away. You're being called towards something most people never find because they're too busy playing the game you can no longer play. Before we dive into what Jung discovered about creating a conscious relationship with money, check out our new guide, True Self-Discovery, with 24 practical reflection exercises designed to help you find your way within. Click below to get True Self-Discovery. Now, let's talk about how most people relate to money. Jung would say they're completely unconscious about it. They've never examined why they want money, what money means to them, or what drives their financial behavior. They just follow the programming they receive from their family, their culture, their society. For some, money equals safety. Their parents struggled financially, so they unconsciously associate having money with being secure and not having money with being in danger. This drives them to accumulate wealth compulsively, never feeling like they have enough, always afraid of losing what they have. For others, money equals worth. They unconsciously believe that their value as a person is measured by their bank account. More money means they're better, more successful, more worthy of respect. Less money means they're failing, inadequate, less than others. For still others, money equals freedom, or power, or love, or validation. The specific meaning varies, but the pattern is the same. They've projected onto money some fundamental psychological need, and then they chase money as a way of meeting that need, never realizing that money can't actually fulfill it. Jung would say all of these relationships with money are shadow projections. Money becomes a container for whatever parts of yourself you haven't integrated. If you haven't developed real security within yourself, you project security onto money. If you haven't developed a sense of your own worth, you project worth onto money. If you haven't claimed your own power, you project power onto money. And as long as this projection remains unconscious, it works. Sort of. It keeps you chasing money. It motivates you to work hard, to climb the ladder, to accumulate wealth. The projection drives the behavior, even if the behavior never actually satisfies the underlying need. But when you awaken spiritually, something shifts. You start to see these projections for what they are. You start to recognize that money isn't really security. Inner peace is security. Money isn't really worth. Self-acceptance is worth. Money isn't really power. Consciousness is power. And once you see this, once you withdraw these projections from money, the old motivations stop working. You can't chase money with the same intensity because you've realized money isn't what you're really looking for. You can't sacrifice everything for wealth because you've discovered that wealth doesn't provide what you actually need. This is why awakened people struggle financially, not because they're lazy or impractical, but because they've seen through the unconscious projections that drive most people's financial behavior. They've withdrawn the shadow from money, and without that unconscious drive, they don't know how to relate to money anymore. Here's where many awakened people make a critical mistake. Unable to relate to money in the old unconscious way, they swing to the opposite extreme. They decide money is unspiritual. They tell themselves that enlightened people don't care about money. They adopt a kind of spiritual poverty consciousness, believing that struggling financially somehow proves they're more evolved. Jung would call this a spiritual bypass. It's using spiritual ideas to avoid dealing with a real challenge. It's hiding behind spirituality to escape the difficult work of developing a conscious, healthy relationship with money. Because here's the truth. Money is not unspiritual. Money is neutral. It's energy. It's a tool. It's a medium of exchange. What's spiritual or unspiritual is your relationship with it, your consciousness around it, your ability to use it wisely or poorly, consciously or unconsciously. Some of the most spiritually awake people in history had money. Buddha came from wealth. Jesus had financial supporters. Jung himself had a successful practice and was financially comfortable. Having money didn't make them less spiritual, and not having money didn't make them more spiritual. The spiritual bypass around money usually sounds like this. Money isn't important. I'm above material concerns. The universe will provide. Money is the root of all evil. These are all ways of avoiding the real issue, which is that you need to develop a new, conscious relationship with money that works for who you've become. Yes, money isn't the most important thing, but it's still important. You live in a material world that requires money to function. Pretending otherwise isn't spiritual. It's denial. And Jung was very clear about what happens when you deny reality. It comes back to bite you, usually hard. The awakened person's challenge isn't to transcend money. It's to bring consciousness to money, to understand your relationship with it, to see where you're still projecting shadow onto it, to develop a healthy, balanced, mature approach to creating and managing financial resources. So, what would Jung actually suggest for awakened people struggling financially? His answer would center on the concept of individuation, becoming fully yourself. And part of becoming fully yourself is discovering your unique relationship with money and your unique way of creating value in the world. Most people never discover their unique gift because they're too busy following the collective script. They choose careers based on what society values, what their parents approved of, what pays well. They never ask, what am I actually here to contribute? What value can only I create? What is my soul calling me to do? But when you awaken, these questions become unavoidable. You can't follow the collective script anymore. You have to find your own path. And that includes finding your own way of creating financial value, a way that aligns with who you truly are. Jung would say, your financial struggle is actually pointing you toward your unique gift. The fact that you can't do the old work anymore is information. It's telling you that your soul is calling you towards something different, something more authentic, something that only you can do. This doesn't mean you'll become rich by following your passion. That's an oversimplification. But it does mean that when you align your work with your authentic self, with your true gifts, with what Jung called your vocation, you create value in a way that's sustainable for you. Because it's not coming from ego or obligation or unconscious projection. It's coming from your soul. The financially successful awakened person isn't someone who's figured out how to manipulate the system or play the game better than everyone else. It's someone who's discovered their unique gift and found a way to offer it to the world. Someone who's brought consciousness to both their spiritual life and their financial life. Someone who understands that being spiritually awake doesn't mean being materially irresponsible. Let's get practical. If you're spiritually awakened and struggling financially, what do you actually do? Here's what Jung's approach would suggest. First, examine your unconscious beliefs about money. Sit with these questions. What did your parents teach you about money? What does money mean to you emotionally? What are you afraid of regarding money? Where are you still projecting shadow onto money, treating it as if it will provide security, worth, power, or love that only you can provide for yourself? Write down your answers. Be honest. You're not trying to judge these beliefs or immediately change them. You're just trying to make them conscious. Because as Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your unconscious money beliefs are directing your financial life. Time to see them clearly. Second, withdraw your projections. Once you've identified what you've been projecting onto money, start developing those qualities within yourself. If you've been projecting security onto money, start building real security through inner work, through developing skills, through creating supportive relationships. If you've been projecting worth onto money, start recognizing your inherent worth independent of your bank account. This doesn't happen overnight. It's deep psychological work. But as you develop these qualities within yourself, you'll notice something shift. Money becomes less charged, less scary, less of an obsession or an avoidance. It becomes what it actually is, a neutral tool that you can use consciously. Third, discover your unique gift. This is the heart of Jung's approach to individuation. Ask yourself, what can I do that genuinely helps others? What do I care about deeply enough to keep doing even when it's difficult? What skills or insights have I developed through my awakening that could be valuable to others? What problems can I solve? What beauty can I create? What truth can I share? Your unique gift is not necessarily some grand, world-changing thing. It might be something simple, something practical, something that seems obvious to you, but is actually rare and valuable. The key is that it must be authentic to who you are. It must come from your actual gifts and interests, not from what you think will make money or what society says is valuable. And if you're struggling to identify your unique gift, check out our new guide, True Self-Discovery, with 24 practical reflection exercises designed to help you find your way within. Click below to get True Self-Discovery. Fourth, learn the practical skills of value creation and exchange. This is where many spiritually awakened people get stuck. They discover their gift, but they have no idea how to translate it into financial sustainability. They don't know how to price their services. They don't know how to market themselves without feeling manipulative. They don't know how to run a business or manage money wisely. Jung would say, these are learnable skills. Being spiritually awake doesn't exempt you from learning practical skills. In fact, part of true individuation is mastering both the spiritual and the material. It's bringing consciousness to every aspect of life, including the practical, mundane, material aspects. So, if you need to learn business skills, learn them. If you need to understand marketing, study it. If you need to get better at managing money, find resources that teach you. There's nothing unspiritual about competence. There's nothing unawakened about being practical. The key is to approach these practical skills consciously. Don't adopt marketing strategies that feel manipulative just because they work. Don't pursue business models that require you to be someone you're not. Find the approaches that align with your values. Learn from teachers who have integrated consciousness and practicality. Create systems that support both your authenticity and your sustainability. Think of it this way. You're learning a new language, the language of conscious value creation. In the old world, you spoke the language of unconscious hustle. Do whatever it takes, fake it till you make it, sell your soul for success. But that language doesn't work for you anymore. You need to learn a different language, one where you can be authentic and abundant, where you can honor your truth and pay your bills, where you can serve from your soul and receive financial compensation. This language exists. People are speaking it, but it's not taught in business schools. It's not what you see in most success stories. You have to seek it out. You have to find the teachers and examples who prove that conscious business is possible, that you can make money without manipulation, that you can be successful without sacrificing your integrity. Fifth, be patient with the transition. Jung understood that individuation is a process, not an event. The transition from unconscious to conscious relationship with money takes time. You're not going to figure it all out overnight. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have periods of financial stress. You're going to doubt yourself. This is normal. This is part of the process. You're essentially unlearning everything you were taught about money and success, and learning an entirely new approach. You're leaving behind the external validation, the impressive job title, the impressive salary, the impressive lifestyle, and finding your worth internally. That's profound transformation. It doesn't happen quickly. Don't interpret financial struggle during this transition as evidence that you're doing something wrong, or that spiritual awakening and financial stability are incompatible. Interpret it as evidence that you're in the middle of a profound transformation. You're leaving behind the unconscious ways that no longer work, and you're discovering the conscious ways that will sustain you for the rest of your life. During this transition, you might need to take practical steps that feel like compromises. You might need to take a temporary job that pays the bills while you build your authentic work on the side. You might need to simplify your lifestyle, reduce your expenses, ask for help from others. None of this means you've failed. It means you're being realistic about where you are while staying committed to where you're going. Jung would encourage you to honor the reality of your situation without losing sight of your vision. Yes, you need money to survive. Yes, you have bills to pay. But no, you don't have to abandon your authenticity to meet those needs. You find the middle path, the path that honors both spirit and matter, both consciousness and practicality, both who you are and what you need. Here's what Jung really understood about the relationship between spiritual awakening and financial struggle. The struggle is the teaching. It's not a problem to be solved and then forgotten. It's an ongoing opportunity to bring consciousness to one of the most challenging aspects of human life. Money is where spirit meets matter. It's where your inner values must interface with outer reality. It's where your consciousness must prove itself in the practical world. And most spiritual teachings try to bypass this interface. They focus only on the inner world, only on consciousness, only on spirit. They ignore or denigrate the material world, including money. But Jung's psychology was different. He believed in integration, not transcendence. He believed the goal wasn't to escape matter for spirit, but to bring spirit into matter, to make the unconscious conscious, to integrate all aspects of yourself, including your relationship with material resources. So, When you struggle financially after awakening, Jung would say, "Good. This means you're being forced to integrate. You're being forced to bring your consciousness into relationship with money. You're being forced to discover how to be authentically yourself and materially sustainable at the same time. You're being forced to prove that spirituality isn't just an escape from reality, but a way of engaging with reality more fully. This is the real work. This is the deep teaching, not just awakening spiritually and then figuring out how to survive despite your spirituality, but awakening spiritually and then learning how to thrive because of your spirituality, learning how to use your consciousness, your authenticity, your unique gifts to create genuine value in the world, learning how to receive financial abundance without losing your soul in the process. When you finally integrate spirit and matter, when you develop a conscious relationship with money, something beautiful happens. You stop seeing money as the enemy of spirituality, or spirituality as the enemy of money. You see them as two aspects of the same reality, two languages describing the same truth, two expressions of the same energy. You realize that creating value in the world, genuinely helping others, solving real problems, contributing your unique gifts, is a spiritual act. And receiving money in exchange for that value is simply energy flowing, a natural circulation, a fair exchange. There's nothing dirty about it, nothing unspiritual. It's consciousness in action. You also realize that managing money wisely, saving for the future, investing in your growth, using resources consciously, is also a spiritual practice. It's taking responsibility for your material life. It's honoring the fact that you live in a physical body in a material world with practical needs. It's being a good steward of the resources that flow through your life. This integration doesn't mean you become obsessed with money again. It doesn't mean you go back to chasing wealth for its own sake. It means you give money its proper place in your life. Important, but not ultimate. Necessary, but not supreme. A tool to be used consciously rather than a god to be worshipped, or a demon to be feared. And from this integrated place, you discover something remarkable. Making money becomes easier, not harder. Not because you've compromised your values or gone back to unconscious hustle, but because you're finally aligned. Your inner truth and your outer work match. Your authentic gifts and your financial value match. Your spiritual practice and your material life match. You're no longer fighting yourself. No longer torn between being spiritual and being practical. No longer feeling like you have to choose between your soul and your survival. You've found the middle path, the integrated path, the path where consciousness and cash flow together naturally. Here's the ultimate truth Jung would want you to understand. Spiritual awakening and financial struggle don't have to go together. They often do, especially during the transition period. But they don't have to. It's not a law. It's not a requirement. It's not proof of your spirituality to be broke. What's true is this: unconscious relationship with money and spiritual awakening can't coexist. You can't be deeply conscious in one area of your life and completely unconscious in another. Eventually, your awakening demands that you bring consciousness to everything, including money. So, the financial struggle isn't about money, it's about consciousness. It's your soul's way of saying, you've awakened spiritually, now awaken financially. You've become conscious of your inner world, now become conscious of your outer world. You've discovered your authentic self. Now discover how your authentic self creates value and receives abundance. This is possible. Jung's life proved it. Many people since have proved it. You can be spiritually awake and financially stable. You can be authentic and abundant. You can honor your soul and pay your bills. But it requires work. It requires consciousness. It requires integration. You have to examine your unconscious beliefs about money. You have to withdraw your shadow projections. You have to discover your unique gift. You have to learn practical skills. You have to be patient with the process. And you have to trust that the struggle is not evidence of failure, but evidence of growth. The spiritually awakened person who's struggling financially is not doing something wrong. They're in the middle of one of the most important transitions of their life. They're learning how to be fully themselves in a material world. They're discovering how to integrate spirit and matter. They're becoming whole. And when that integration happens, when you finally develop a conscious, healthy, authentic relationship with money, something beautiful emerges. You're no longer driven by unconscious projections. You're no longer avoiding money out of spiritual bypass. You're simply creating value from your authentic gifts, receiving financial abundance as a natural result, and using that abundance consciously to support your life and your continued growth. This is what Jung would call individuation in the realm of money. This is what financial consciousness looks like. And this is available to you if you're willing to do the work. So, if you're spiritually awakened and struggling financially, know this: you're not broken. You're not doing it wrong. You're in the middle of a profound transformation. Trust the process. Do the inner work. Learn the practical skills. Be patient with yourself. And remember, the goal isn't to transcend money. The goal is to bring consciousness to money, to integrate your spiritual awakening with your material reality, to prove that you can be fully yourself and fully functional in this world at the same time. Because that integration, that's where real freedom lives. That's where true individuation happens. That's where spirit and matter finally meet and create something whole.